All right, so today, the art of freedom, and the healing target today is partner-partner relationship. So wonderful, wonderful, great. Um, all right. Oh, okay. You have something with your. Oh yeah, that's all right. So now we all know it. We saw it in example. So thank you so much for showing up today. And like I said, this is going to be quite interactive, as much as I can. And the thing is that, yeah, I need your input. I need your input in this meeting, because this is not what we always realize when we are studying or doing our spiritual work, so to speak. When we meditate or when we do everything, it's like you forget for a moment that you're completely in relationship, whether that's with a partner, with a neighbor, with a neighborhood, with a world. You're in relationship, and so, like I said, you sometimes forget that when you're in the when you're in, yeah. Okay, great, wonderful. So when you're in the um, meditation or what any kind of spiritual activity, sometimes you forget about that. That's really interesting. I recognize that from myself too. So, but you're still in relationship, and all kinds of relationships. So you can actually say, like, the relationship is something that you have denied that you were in at some point, but actually everything is communicating. There's no, say, privacy in that sense. Like, everything is communicated, even though you might not be aware of it. And communicated does not mean like gossiped about or something. No, but it is like, no, every thought you have, everything, every action that you undertake, everything is, say, in relationship. You can't avoid that. It's communicating. So what you think literally determines how your universe is going to look, and this we know from lessons that we did, or information that we got somewhere. And it's like everything is literally making it to something. Like, your thought is making it to something. Your idea about it determines how you see it, and all this. So this is not different with the idea of relationship. So today I want to make a start with it, because it's like we have two episodes related to the idea of partner-partner relationship. I call it partner-partner just because there's probably enough material available to use for healing, because this is still totally a healing, say, a healing meeting where real healing is taking place and is available, especially in relationship with partner-partner relationship, or child-parent relationship, or your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with God. And so to present what I present today is really like a full picture. You could say, like, a full picture of the idea of relationship up to the point of transition. And that makes it totally incredible if you can follow that with me, follow through, because you will recognize in every step yourself. And that's why it's also the very fact that it's being shared in such a, say, clear and systematic way will sometimes, just by doing that, something falls into place for yourself, and you will see that, and you'll recognize your tendencies too that you have in your awakening too, in this transition state that you actually find yourself. So there are certain curves that you take, certain episodes, certain say eye of the needles that you move through, in which something critical is happening to you. And so this is actually where we take a look at today. But I want to make it really also playful at the same time. And by playful, I mean also your interaction is really helpful. Um, this just to say as a way to open this up for yourself and to see what is happening in that, where you find yourself with it. So yeah, that's definitely something we're going to do. Um, yeah, I actually like to start with that. So last week we had Master Teacher as a special guest, and he moved us through the idea of the past, you know, the shadow figures of the past. And I cannot remember anything of it anymore. I know the title, that's why I remember it, but that's about it. But now that was the child-parent relationship, which is interesting to do it this way. So now we actually make the next step, if you want, in this, and it's all very much related. Uh, when I say related, it is like you cannot, in your transition, you actually start to see that the past is over, your past relationships are in fact gone, they're over. You might still try to keep them alive in some way, but they're actually over. So these things are happening. So the thing that I love to share here is that my own, say, development in the idea of relationship has been tremendous. Like I had no idea all the things that I would go through in order to find myself in the place where I do now. And what I mean with that is like every step that you take in your awakening has an effect on everything. And yeah, the discovery, basically it comes down to this, like the discovery that I made for myself, I love to share with you. And not that that's one thing, but it's like many things, but I love to share it with you because it is so great to discover the new freedom in which I find myself, that I love to share that with you. That's why I do this. That's why I actually do these classes right now. It's like especially with this one, like there's something there that I have to put into words to share with you, and you might recognize it or not, but I have to give this to you, and you can do with it whatever you want, of course. But yeah, there's a real, like, incredible gift in all of it. All right. That's my introduction to today. That's great. So, for the sake of hearing each other, I put up my earphones and always have one ear out of it so that I can hear myself. So one thing that I would love to do now is this whiteboard that I love to share with a question. So, and this is very plain. Um, which tendencies do you have in your relationships? Which tendencies do you have? And you can say it out loud, you can write it down, whatever you feel like. You can put it in the chat, I'll put it in there. Libre, dependency, helpfulness, anger, pride, separation, support, reliance, over reliance, duality, carrying too much, carrying too much, yeah, carrying too much. Okay, well, that's a start. That's a start. That's great. Oh, yeah, okay. So many positive tendencies too, also. Okay, good. Great. So let's try to open this again. Many positive tendencies too. Okay, so well, here we go. So now the next. I'm gonna stir up some um, more tendencies that you might be familiar with. So I'm not saying that you should or you have to, but just okay. So here's the partner relationship. I made something really like juicy of it, like a real, almost like an what you call it, almost like an Valentine's Day kind of tendency. I love to work it out here. Okay, so here's the next thing. So I don't know if anyone is familiar with the idea of codependency, but probably after reading these signs, you might be familiar. Oops, sorry. After these signs, you might be recognizing something. So sign one is, oh, this is just a whole bunch of them, a tendency to ignore or minimize your own feelings. So if that's familiar to you, that's something. Doing things you don't want to do to make the other person happy. A tendency to apologize or take the blame to keep the peace and avoid conflict. An excessive need to get approval from others. A tendency to neglect your own desires and needs. Changing your mood to reflect how others feel or behave. Changing your mood to reflect how others feel or behave instead of having your own mood. Excessive concern about that person's habit or behaviors. Experiencing guilt, for instance, or anxiety when doing something for yourself. A sense of self-worth and self-esteem that depends on what others think of you. And I had another one, giving advice without a request. So these things you might think like, well, that sounds kind of nice or positive or whatever, but yeah, here it is actually like, well, it's really like a codependency. And what does that mean? It means that you're, say, sacrificing parts of yourself into the relationship in order to be liked or to avoid conflict or to show in your way that you love the person. So that is, so I can go through it one more time. So a tendency to ignore or minimize your own feelings. Doing things you don't want to do to make the other person happy. A tendency to apologize or take the blame to keep the peace and avoid conflict. An excessive need to get approval from others. A tendency to neglect your own desires and needs. Changing your mood to reflect how others feel or behave. Excessive concern about that person's habit or behaviors. Experiencing guilt or anxiety when doing something for yourself. A sense of self-worth and self-esteem that depends on what others think of you. Giving advice without a request. Now, okay, so you've seen these, right? You've seen these. Oh, this is great. So you recognize this. It's wonderful. You recognize some of it. That's wonderful. So I'm going to open up another whiteboard. So mention one tendency or sign that you just recognized deeply, in the sense that you are doing, that you recognize that doing it. Needing approval is one, desiring approval, doing something I don't want to keep someone happy. basing my behavior on someone else's mood, feeling guilty when I'm doing something for myself, être attentive. Can you say this one more time? Can you? Attentive. So like being very careful, very careful. Needing approval, desiring approval, basing my behavior on someone else's mood or reaction, doing something I don't want to do to keep someone happy. Okay, so this is obvious, clear. Thank you for doing this. So it is just to come into it a little bit and to make it very practical, and also opportunities for healing, because I know for sure that what I'm going to share, say, during this meeting will help you in that sense, to take another look at it or to see it in a different way. So that's what I'm going to share with you right now. You could say like the special relationship. Now, well, that needs a little introduction. I'm actually just popping out here again. So the special relationship. So we're going to make it very systematic. I do this. I use A Course in Miracles just because it's so clear in expressing this, and it has helped me so incredibly a lot that I think, well, that's what I can teach, what I can give away. So one thing is then the special relationship. Like it is the relationship that you got familiar to in your humanhood, so to speak. And that is like there's someone that you fall in love with and that you're going to be with for some time. And there's a lot happening in that. Because it is like you do this, you look for a partner, or that happens to you in your humanhood. It happens to you also because you see examples that you have to do it that way. It's like, that you're being raised. Or are you going to marry this princess? Are you going to do this? You hear all the stories about it in the books that are read to you. So there's getting used to the idea, and to you it's normal to do this. And when you are a human being, you don't think about that. Like, no, it's something that is part of that, and to enjoy, to find your love, to find your soulmate, to find your, your twin flame, or whatever, however you want to call it. And for a moment, it's like you're in heaven, at least for 24 hours or so. And after that, you might fall into the idea of, I'm afraid to lose this person now, because I'm absolutely not sure if that's all going to work out. And there's the fear already in it. But anyway, I don't want to take any of that away from you. It's more like it is a way of starting to look at what actually occurred. So this, you could say, is like probably your past relationships that you recognize this in. So the special relationship is what you as a human being call a love relationship. And here it's just said as a special relationship. Somebody's, say, special to you, and also by coming in touch with each other in that way, you form like your little heaven. You form like your little safe spot in this world. So you use it for all kinds of reasons, and it has a lot of mechanisms that are working that you might not even be aware of. But it is all part of it too, and you'll recognize it for sure. So this is my little introduction into the special relationship. So later on, like in the second part of this, we're actually taking a look at the holy relationship. And what that means, we'll see later. But in fact, it is made for this. It's like the special relationship to bring love into the separation, because as a human being you experience yourself as separated from God. That's why you become a human being, right? You're not aware of your direct relationship with God. So you definitely want to experience love. And in that is the invention, like, of a special relationship. So here is somebody showing up that you completely fall in love with, and you really call that love. It is happening while you are in separation, but it lifts you out of the separation idea for just a moment. You could say it's like it limits the destructive effects of hate. It has no value in itself. So limiting the destructive effects of hate, you could see like this. It's like in the separation, you don't feel at home. Like you don't feel safe. You don't feel, completely at ease. You're not at peace. So you need to find a place then, or create a place, in order to feel this safety. And this is like, now you can keep the hate outside. So you can share with your partner, for instance, about the nasty neighbors, or the incredible government, or the dangers in the world. But you do this together in your little bubble, so to speak, of an idea of safety. So it has no value in itself, but as a place of safety from which hatred is split off and set apart, like literally outside the door, like the danger is outside the door. I'm just saying it bluntly here to make it clear. The special love relationship is acceptable only as long as he serves this purpose. Like if everyone is keeping to the rules, if you're still agreeing with your partner, for instance, about the world and about who you hate together and who you love together, and like if you're in one line, if you're still, say, contribute to the place of safety and play the role in that, then the relationship is cool. But when that breaks, then something happens, Hatred can enter into this relationship, and indeed is welcome in some aspects of the relationship. It is held together by an illusion of love. Like, I give you gifts, and I make a nice dinner for you in order to who knows what. Or like there's always a bit of exchange going on at the same time too. If the illusion goes, the relationship is broken or becomes unsatisfying. Like if this game is not played anymore, of the illusion of love, if that game is not played anymore, you actually want to get rid of it. So it's like that's the point where relationships break or become unsatisfying. And you think like, what am I doing here with this person? So this is very normal in a special relationship. Yeah, you could say a love-hate relationship. You have your moments of safety, but at the same time, it can change any second and fall apart as you look at it. And I'm just speaking from deep experience. And so on the grounds of disillusionments, like you're able to break it off, or to admit the unsatisfying part of it. It's a delusion. So it has three aspects. I put it this way. I have to laugh at it myself because it's being presented as something really attractive, but at least in some eyes. So there are three main aspects in the special relationships, like things that are really important in order for that to exist. And I know this is a lot to look at, just on a roll, so to speak. I understand. But it's also fun. So guilt is one of them. important aspects. Love and hate coexist in the relationship, and for you that is in this special relationship, that's completely normal. It's like love and hate. So sometimes you can love and sometimes you can hate each other, and that's all perfect. You know, it's like that's all part of it. Love is perceived as exclusion and separation. Seek and do not find is its motto. A conditional union. Like, I want to be with you, but you got to behave like this, or who knows what rules you make up. To make themselves complete by the other. So this is an essential part, and probably come back to that in a moment, because that needs a bit more words. To make themselves complete by the other. But you recognize this too. So here's another part, the ritual. Ritual is an essential part in the, say, special relationship. You lost yourself, and now you snatch the self of the other to complete yourself. And it fails continuously, but you keep trying. Ritual of form, like it has to have this form, and we have to do it this way, then we know that we're one with each other, then we're a couple again, and we repeat this over and over. So you could say, like, you lost yourself by choosing to be separate from God. You lost yourself, and now you use the other to complete yourself, and it fails continuously. So it takes a lot of effort to get some satisfaction out of the relationship. It's hard work, and it's really form-based. So in that, you place yourself in bondage, like it's a prison. There's no union in separation. So what you're trying to do is impossible. Trying to live in a relationship as a human being, and trying to be in union, in separation. Yeah, that's not going to work. It is a device to limit yourself to a body and your perception of others to theirs. Because you could say, like, this only works if you have an attribute that you can use to separate. And what would be the best for that? Like, that is the body, of course. So it's like in the special relationship, the body is like number one, because you literally can demonstrate the fact that you're separate from the rest of the world by having the same body in the house as you are. And you value that as long as you do. You value that as thinking that you're together. Like, two bodies are in the same room, so you're together. And, you know, this is quite twisted in that sense. But you got used to it, and you think that has to work some way. And if you're lucky, you got the right one. And you can live with this right one together until, well, you know the end point. Like, what is the goal of the special relationship? In fact, to keep yourself in time and separated from God. And it sounds maybe not as your intention in the first instance, but actually it's the practice. It is literally what that is for. First, the fact that you think you need a partner to complete yourself would mean that you miss something. And that is true, and that is true in your experience of yourself in the human relationship, because you consciously separated yourself from God, and now you need something to make that whole again. And you keep trying that, and you are so frustrated that it does not work, that your tendencies to become angry at your partner, are like, yeah, of course that is happening. Like, it's in that sense normal in the relationship. You say, like, well, no, we really go and be loving to one another. And well, that's wonderful. That's great. So, but like, this can still be underneath all of it. So I'm putting this out very plain, just as a human relationship, thinking that is it, just to make that point, make that say clear, because you have based a lot of your ideas on this say these can still be patterns that are running while you're opening up to a new kind of relationship, which is like coming from your recognition of the truth of who you are, like being in that transition and discovering that something else is possible. And we come to that in a moment. But that's why I'm putting it out here, this, this basic. So like the tendencies you still recognize in yourself in the relationship, you're, sacrificing part of your authenticity of what you really want, what you really feel, or you keep it quiet, or you escape it a little bit just to not be bothered by it, or you have your another relationship parallel to it in order for you to at least get what you want. And see, these are all very normal human behaviors in that sense, because the place where you find yourself in the relationship can never be complete, and you have a memory of completion, and that frustrates the hell out of you, literally. You know, you do everything you can to make that complete and to be as flexible as possible to make it work, to sacrifice to whatever extent, even to your own destruction. You would sacrifice yourself in order to have this going. So yeah, is that a love? Is that a love relationship? No, that's not a love relationship. Certainly not. So do you have moments of love experience? Oh yeah, you can possibly have that. But it will always be embedded in a form that is actually not, that can never be it. So here comes your first transformational book, your first Infinite Way book, or you pick the Course in Miracles from the shelf in the library, or some other book that opens up your consciousness. Suddenly something breaks inside of you, something cracks, and it's like, oh my God, no, what is this? I will relate it to my own experience. Why not? So I suddenly find myself in a place where I'm completely aware of all the fear that I carry with me, all the things that I'm concerned about, the complete disappointment in my relationship, the complete disappointment in my studies, the complete disappointment in my, being a dad of children, thinking that all of this would make me happy and seeing that it doesn't work. At this point, there's like a climax in fear, because I have no idea how to deal with this, and I don't want to do it. So it's like an increased conflict moment in which I have no way to get out of it. That's how it felt at that point. Then suddenly something happens in which I literally ask for, there must be something else. Like, this cannot be it. There must be something else. And seeing that in that same moment, like literally my mind cracks open and light starts to shine deeply into it and disrupts my whole idea about myself, putting me in an intense moment of recognition of my oneness with every aspect of the universe, feeling that for just a moment, and then seeing that, in fact, I land back on Earth and having no idea how to cope and how to deal with any of my relationships, because I know there is something else. So this is a bit of the situation in the transition. It's like, this is an extreme, in that sense, an extreme example, but that's just the way that it happened to me and makes it actually clear to deal with this. So then the tendency to try to become a normal human being has been following me for a long time, at least, say, maybe 5-6 years after that. trying to behave like a human being again, trying to be a dad for children again, trying to be a husband to a wife again, trying to do all these things that I picked up before, but seeing that that is just totally impossible. So that is, you could say, like a real transitioning moment in this completely blown up special relationship. You could say like there was dynamite under that, like completely into pieces. No idea how to assemble it, put it back together. Well, that would be impossible. But still, having an idea of that all is one and everything exactly as it should. So, okay, so I'm pulling up my transition sheet. Okay, so in your transition, suddenly you discover that love is freedom, and that there are whole other mechanisms working, such as like the only value that you recognize the body has is to enable you to bring your brother to the bridge with you and be released together there. So the newly discovered spark in you cannot be limited long to littleness, like a body identity or an idea that you're a human being living on this earth in a special relationship with all kinds of special attributes, special children, special this and special that. So you cannot stay in that too long. You discover that. So this was written in the Course in Miracles. That's where I got this from. Time is kind, and if you use it for reality, it will keep gentle pace with you in your transition. So you're transitioning. When you're here in this meeting, when you're listening to this, you're in transition. So this is like, time is kind, and use it. If you use it for a reality, it will keep gentle pace with you in your transition. All right, and then here, fear not. Fear not that you will be abruptly lifted and hurled into reality. So this is the thing that can happen to you, and not as a threat. So it's like, fear not, but know that you can be abruptly lifted and hurled into reality. Like suddenly in your transition, something changes fundamentally. Well, this was exactly what I was sharing about what happened to me. It's like I was abruptly lifted, completely, like abruptly lifted, hurled into reality. And amazing experience, like everything is changing. So this is the happening that takes place when you see that you cannot do this any longer in the way that you did it, like being in a relationship as you were familiar with it, as you, in fact, adapted yourself into it, living that, thinking that you had to do that. So you come out of that suddenly nothing is working anymore. The things you say are not comforting anymore. The things you do are disturbing completely the whole scenario in your safe haven that you created with each other to separate yourself off, in fact, like from the rest that could intrude upon your safety. So these are all things that are like waiting for you in a certain sense, but there's a lot of opportunity to deal with this in a different way. But before we go into that, I think I have one more whiteboard. Oh yeah, so that was connected to the idea of the purpose of your relationship. Like, okay, the purpose. What purpose has your relationship? Like, what goals have your relationship at this point? So I see tenderness, I see sink or swim together. Sink or swim together. Comfort and help through the human life experiences. Showing a different ways of looking at things. Teaching what the faith is. Acceptance, unconditional love, protection. Amor incondizionale. Amor, like unconditional love, tenderness. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have this. Thank you for your support here. Thank you so much. So you see all the tendencies and things you got used to in relationship, but also recognizing that there's a change occurring. Like whether that's a huge change or a small change, it doesn't matter, but something is changing. And so this, what I'm going to share now with you is still like directly from A Course in Miracles. So it's like stating things about your holy relationship and the transition first. So I'm sharing this. The holy instant. The holy instant. The holy relationship is the expression of the holy instant in living in this world. The holy instant never fails. It reminds that the relationship became what it is, a happy song of praise to the Redeemer of relationships. It is the old, unholy relationship transformed and seen anew. The holy relationship. So the only difficult phase in shifting into it, in fact, is the beginning. The goal of the relationship abruptly shifted to the exact opposite of what it was. So you could say like it had goals in the horizontal plane, and now suddenly there's a shift into the, say, vertical plane, in which it abruptly shifts. Like suddenly you recognize your oneness with the universe. Suddenly there's a holy instant, a moment in which you are lifted out of the place where you find yourself a moment ago. And in that, you recognize that your holy relationship, like your communication with God, is your original relationship. Like we're all one in God. This is what you recognize in your holy relationship. We can share that together, but it will be our, say, singular experience of this oneness, like our individual experience of that. So that is something, I will get back to it in a moment too. So I first keep reading these points, and these are not just points, but the goal of the relationship abruptly shifted to the exact opposite of what it was, offering the relationship to the Holy Spirit to use for its purpose. Like you literally give your whole relationship that you recognized as what you have to the Holy Spirit to use for its purpose. This invitation, and you might believe it or not, is accepted immediately. So at once, his goal completely replaces yours. This is accomplished very rapidly, and it makes the relationship that you were familiar with seems disturbed or disjunctive, or even it can even be quite distressing. All that seemed to make sense suddenly doesn't make sense. Many relationships have been broken off at this point. Well, it was actually not necessary. It was just an entrance of the Holy Spirit in your relationship. The temptation of the ego becomes extremely intense at this point with this shift in goals. See, all stuff I'll come back to you about. Leaving this again. So here we go. Now the interesting part. So you discover there's a communication possibility with the Holy Spirit. You have your first experiences of oneness, of light, of communication, that you know is like, oh, finally I remember my love for God. Like suddenly I can give in to my love for God, and that is my most precious gift that I receive in this moment. Like that is my direct experience of the totality of who I am. That is what like is completion in itself. It is my fulfillment. It is whole. Like it feels like I'm say returning back home. This is how good it feels. This is an unbelievable recognition with your source. So that shifts everything in your relationship. That shifts everything. And so now there are a lot of mechanisms at work when you go through a change like that. Like I said, like you might feel completely disturbed in your relationship as you know it. Like I expressed it for me, like I had no idea how to relate to my family anymore. I had no idea how to be an husband to a wife, or I had no idea how to do any of these things. And that was really like I was looking for it around me to find answers, but there was none of it. So the only thing that remains was the purity of the light that I experience and want to sit still with. So for me it was like I started to literally send everyone away. It's like, please don't start discussing me why I'm doing this. Like I need to be where I need to be. It will come. Like, give me a moment to let this come to me, and to know what the next step is. It will be given to me, but I cannot respond to your request at this point. I cannot do that any longer. Well, that is, I can tell you this, is like that was for me at least, since it was very sudden. Also, was a complete change in all relationships, like in every single relationship I had. Nothing stayed the same anymore. But then at the same time, the beautiful thing that happens is that you are literally being inspired to do certain things, because this is not only happening in your special relationship. This is not only happening in your relationships to the ones that are familiar to you. No, this goes way further. So the one thing for me, for instance, what happened is that I knew I had to go, say, immediately to my dad. I had to go to my dad and ask him to kiss me, because I didn't have had a kiss since I was 16, when he thought I was too old to still kiss him. And to me, I had like swallowed that, like, okay, I will not talk about it. I will accept that. But to me, that was no longer possible to stay in that. I had to, say, almost like to run to him, to let that occur. And to feel his kiss, literally, like I needed to feel his kiss on my cheek again, for that to be healed. Like that, and that was a life-changing experience as well for him as for me, like that. So I was completely inspired to do so. And this is what I mean, like the things you let the relationship be, suddenly it can be what it is. And that is like beyond all the laws and all the ways of, so this is the way we have to do this or that. Like all that just goes aside. You're literally like inspired to do what you need to do, and literally to bring everyone home with you, to be released, say, that there where the bridge is, to transition over. Literally, you're being released together. Well, and these experiences are beautiful, of course. It's like, that's great that that happens, and it's a real discovery that this can be a way to do it while you were imprisoned in your ideas about yourself a moment ago. So in that sense, it's like suddenly there's so much possible in healing options, and it will all be given to you when that occurs. So finally, by having this opening up in you, the relationship can be as what it is. And the goal shifts, is what we shared a moment ago. So now the interesting part is that when you're in a special relationship, you have together goals that you want to achieve. You want to go and do this journey there, and go travel, go do this, and buy a car, maybe a boat, or maybe we can set up, make a home for ourselves, or do all kinds of things. Like continuously, you will have a point at the horizon at which you're going to work at to achieve together, to reach that goal. So now in this complete turnover shift into the vertical plane, that goal is gone. Like, the goals are gone. No, you handed everything over to spirit. So now literally in my relationship, as I see myself now, even like in my home relationship, if you want, it's like we don't have a goal. We do not have a goal, but we're still finding each other together. It's like we don't have a goal. We don't have to achieve anything. We don't need to go anywhere. We don't need to, it's really funny. Like, I even shared it today too. It's like, it's so funny that to recognize that we don't have a goal together. We don't have to accomplish anything. Like, that is completely, that completely disappeared out of the window. It's like, no idea. No idea how that works, but it works perfectly. It's like everything is still exactly in the right spot. It works just fine, but you don't need all this concern and working at and making any of the forms real in this. We don't need a ritual to discover the freedom of ourselves. No, that is a given. So by coming into that experience and allowing yourself to live like that, all of these things are just gone. So now it's like whoever shows up in a relationship, in a direct contact, in coming to me for whatever reason, is completely included in this. To join in the, say, purposelessness as a human being. Like, you cannot have a real human conversation with me in that sense. I have no interest in doing that. I have no interest in that sense, in a friendship or anything, because it's like, it doesn't work like that anymore. So the holy relationship is my connection with God. In that, I say, come in touch with everything that I need to. It's so perfectly orchestrated time-wise, and so beautiful to see that at work, that I need to share this. It's like, I love to share this with you, just because it's so perfect, and actually it's only adding my joy to it, and recognizing the light in the ones that I meet, and sharing for a moment this transition that we're in, like celebrating that in the moment that we come together. Same as we do here, in fact. It's like same as we do here. We celebrate that, that this is all the worldly goals we had before disappeared into light, and what we do is what is given us to do, and what is coming to us is exactly right in the moment, so perfectly, that I only have to trust that and see it, say, being expressed in the action, in the movements that I make, in the things that I say, in the all of this, like that is so perfectly orchestrated, just by staying in communication. Well, the art of freedom then is this: is that first the recognition that this is a possibility, and the recognition that this shift occurred, that your goal shifted from horizontal to vertical, and from worldly goals to complete handing it over to spirit and asking to show it what is the next thing, what is, like, not even be concerned with that, it will be given. That's so great. I love that, to share that. Thank you so much for listening and sharing that with me, by receiving that in yourself. You know, that's so beautiful. So the thing then that stays is then we meet each other, and it's like the only function of this thing, of this body, becomes then, I'm gonna hold your hand and walk you up to the bridge where we will be released together. It's like in this holy instant. It's like that's the only necessity for this thing here to be here. So I can say it like that. I realize that very much. Like, I have no other goal for it that I use it for. I wouldn't know what to do with it. So in that is a fulfillment that takes place and that I experience in myself, which is amazing, which is amazing. So thank you, God. Thank you, God. So this is exemplifying that, not for any other reason than for the possibility of this. That's why I share this with you, which is totally amazing. So, yeah. So the real option here is then the holy instant, and this is a healing moment. The holy instant, the communion with God, as Joel would say, is like it's the moment where you feel that you're lifted up and not experience the world as you did before. And that is the offering in every moment that we come together, like literally based on the release of the self-identity, the release of the defenses, to let this occur to you. Because as a human being, you're just not in a natural surrounding, like you're actively denying God until you don't, and then you're lifted up and hurled into reality in your very own individual way. Like there's no click, no anything, or any, I don't want to put any name to it, but it's a real option for you, for a real occurrence waiting for you, or you're in the middle of one, or you just had one, or who knows how that is for you. So thank you for today. Thank you for sharing a nice